Hello, everyone. On today's episode, I'll be talking about when your last ride is near home. When you're doing rideshare. When your last ride is near home, it's extremely surprising as well as convenient. Um, I remember there was one time I was doing a ride. I think my shift was about 12 hours. I did a 12-hour day. Once the day is beginning, usually I would have an abundance of energy, just being on the road, looking forward to meeting new people, new experiences, and then, of course, just hoping for the best because when you're on the road, weather, personalities, and even things outside of that can hinder a commute if one allows it. Anywho, I was at the time, my shift started at DFW Airport, and I picked up someone for business. I believe they were coming in from Seattle. Actually, one came in from Seattle, the other came in from Charlotte. However, they both needed to go long distances. And when I say long distances, I mean 45 minutes to an hour. So as the commutes progress, it was good conversation. I learned a great deal about both clients. They were being in Texas for the first time. So we talked a lot about sports. They talked about how big the airport was, and they asked me how it was um, living in Texas. And of course, I gave them my impressions. I told them it was cool, no issues. It's like every other place that you're at. However, the commute goes well. They tip me well. In fact, they give me their information to pick them up because they were only going to be in town for the weekend because this was a Friday. And I get going. I see that I dropped them off to one of the five-star hotels downtown Fort Worth. Now, initially, I wasn't really paying attention to it. It didn't dawn on me until I dropped them off. And usually, I would eat out. There were times I would try to take my lunch, but more days than not, I ate out, which is not a bad thing. It's not a good thing, depending on how you look at it. If you're one that tried to eat right, put the right things in your body, then it's a bad thing. If you don't care, you know, then you just don't care, and then you get what you want, and you keep it pushing. However, at the conclusion of these rides, I was like, I should go to the chicken spot, give me some fried chicken. I can slide in the Outback, sit down, have a good dessert at the bar. I had a propensity to do that sometimes. I would go into the bar at Outback and just get some dessert. I know, right? Sounds delicious. It was. But on these occasions, I just went home because I was so close. It was my last ride. So I just went home. And sometimes it was so releasing that I don't have to go far to get home. I would just stop there, go home, take a break, 30, 35 minutes, give me something to eat, unwind, clear my head. Not that I needed to. And in fact, it felt so good. There were times I was like, well, I had already hit my goal. And since I already hit my goal, I don't really need to get back on the road. But I eventually did. And when I got back on the road, the weather had changed because initially it was raining. And when it's raining, people tend to drive. Some drive slow, some drive fast as if there's no water on the road. And that's wild to me. However, I expected. But by this time, the rain had ceased. So now the sun is out. I had that energy just to get up, go back and work some more. And that's what I did. I think I ended up working, like I said, a total of 12 hours. But from driving to different parts of the Metroplex, from Plano, the Colony, all around DFW, Fort Worth, and then even driving, picking up clients and like the little small towns that has the back roads. It was always an adventure, but that adventure always feels real worth it when you pick up that ride. The app tell you have about 30 minutes left or they boot you off because you're at the 12 hours, and we all know those that have done rideshare or is currently doing rideshare. 12 hours is what it is. Once you get to 12 hours, they knock you off for safety purposes. It's actually the same safety purposes that they have for truck drivers in the state of Texas. Depending, most companies, they only allow you to drive for 12 hours. Moving on, I go pick up my client and I take them to their destination. And by this time, it's nighttime. Still not tired though, feeling real terrific. The client in my car, he wanted to play all kind of music. So he like asked for me to play some country, some hip hop, some jazz, and I was like, well, okay, cool, no problem. He has a unique ear for music. That's what I was thinking. I was like, all right, cool. It was my responsibility to be a server. So going through my playlist and I'm taking him to where he needs to be. And this route was about 20-25 minutes. So it wasn't really that far. It wasn't too shabby. And, by the time I dropped him off, he was telling me what all he was getting into for the night. He was telling me how the week was horrendous because life happened to him. Some things happened with his employees. Come to find out, he was a business owner of an ice cream truck, and he had issues with the machinery. He also had hiccups with employees not showing up for work, and he just recently hired them. And he was like, "Hey, people just don't want to work," and I was like, "I hear you, but I'm not one of them." But I told him just continue to tell me what's going on. And come to find out, I learned that he was in business with his wife. They started a little ice cream parlor together. So they just said they're gonna try to hire some more people, and wish that it was like the day of yesterday when people had no problem working and wasn't always trying to take off and complaining. And I was like, I get it. And I told them that there are still people out there of all ages that love to work, that want to work, that always want to stay active, want to always stay in motion like a current. He agreed, cracked half a smile. By the time I got him to his destination, he gave me a tip, gave me his business card, and I kept on to the next destination. I was feeling so good, I forgot I only had 20-25 minutes left. So I'm driving in my direction, um, near my home, and I'm like, okay, I think I could squeeze one more ride in. And guess what? I was able to. I was able to squeeze one more ride in. And the fact that I only had a limited time, the app did not send me somewhere far out, like it was within range of my residency. So that was cool. I didn't have a person exhibiting crazy behavior. They was just wanting to have a good time. Probably because it was, the weekend, which is always cool. I get it. People need to unwind, but when it's your last ride, when it's your last ride near home, especially for me, it's a great thing. I can choose to take a detour and not go home. But after this ride, I went home. The reason I went home because I didn't really have no reason to just be out running the streets, especially knowing that I need to get my rest. So I just decided to go home, make some phone calls, have some laughs, and just reflect on how when your last ride is near home, it's an awesome feeling. Even if I was tired, let's say I was tired, then I would be like, you don't got that far to go. Plus, I knew all the back roads, knew where the cops were not. And, I made it home safely. And to all the people doing rideshare, continue to have a good time. People going through it, it's calling for rides. Y'all continue to stay with it. And always remember, when it's your last ride near home, it's always a wonderful thing because you halfway there. Once you get home, you can relax and unwind, and that's that. Anywho, this is all for today. You all have a good one. Don't forget to go to Amazon and get my book. And until next time, peace.